Sarah Moss hated her name. It was a mistake, a fundamental one, with possibly catastrophic results for the rest of her life. Her last name, Moss, was okay, she guessed. Monosyllabic, rhizomatic, and green. Moss was actually pretty cool. Sarah was not and never would be. But did she really hate her name? Hate had lust at its core, a dark quicksand of desire, which was a little dramatic, even for Sarah. And besides, how could she bring herself to hate something that was essentially a gift from her parents? The second gift they'd ever given her, life itself being the first. Even though her parents were the most annoying people she knew, they were eternally well-intentioned. So it felt wrong to hate in any official way the name they had chosen for her. She was their first and only child. They must have been fumbling in a postnatal stupor when they'd picked out the name Sarah. She had to believe this. Something as boring as Sarah could not have been premeditated. They were probably tired. What could she expect of people in that state? They didn't even know her yet. When Sarah was 3.5, she requested that her parents start calling her Buckle. Those two smiling syllables, like a drink of sweetened milk, never mind what they denoted. But her parents laughed at her, an eternally well-intentioned laugh, because it was funny. This tiny girl with big owl eyes and toy-sized glasses asking to be called Buckle. And Sarah had burst into tears. Science was a later pseudonym, the brainchild of her 7-year-old self. Science was her favorite subject at school, so adopting it as her name seemed like the next logical step. She confessed this wish only to her babysitter. Her parents had laughed at her once. She would not allow them to do it again. "Human beings can't have names like science," her babysitter snorted. She was an elderly next-door neighbor with black wiry hairs sprouting from her chin that she paid young Sarah a dime per hair to pluck out with rusty tweezers. "Especially not little girls," Mrs. Whiskers had said as a final judgment. Older now, Sarah knew this was a sexist and small-minded thing to say. It was pathological how much resentment she still harbored toward that lady and her chin hairs. She asked her friends at school to call her Claudia when she was 11. It sounded elegant and strong, as a girl approaching adolescence should be. But everyone kept forgetting, so Sarah let it go. Just last year, she'd made a case for elective name-changing at school, trying to piggyback onto the burgeoning transgender rights movement. "It's transnominalism," she'd said to Dr. Vasquez McQueen, her guidance counselor. It didn't go over well. Sarah was a freshman in high school by then. It wasn't cute to think like this anymore. She understood that completely. She'd actually understood it the same day she tried, and failed, to pull off the Claudia conversion. It had been embarrassing and lame 4 years earlier, and now even more so. There were over 1.6 million Sarahs in the world. She'd looked it up, and 8 of them were at her high school. 8 out of a student body of only 52 students. Plus at least a dozen more Sarahs in the lower school, and probably close to 100 in her town's overcrowded public school system. Famous Sarahs throughout history failed to inspire her. Even supposedly cool historical Sarahs couldn't be trusted, because who knew what was real and what was fiction when it came to famous people? Of the not-famous Sarahs that Sarah Moss knew personally, all of them were seriously lacking. Sarah Wilmington, for example, was a senior at the Phoenix School who collected pewter figurines of dragons and unicorns, wore a variety of hand-stitched velvet capes, and wrote sad, sensual poetry, especially discomfiting, Sarah Moss felt, because everyone knew that Sarah Wilmington was a virgin. Sarah W. often hijacked the weekly all-school meetings to read her poetry out loud in that lispy voice of hers. "Juicy mangoes," and "thwet-studded skin." It was enough to make you puke. No one at school could really look each other in the eye after a few couplets from Sarah Wilmington. Sarah Burke was a sophomore like Sarah Moss. She'd come to the school in the middle of freshman year, a transplant from some suburb in Connecticut that sounded identical to Edgewater, Massachusetts, their home now, though Sarah Burke loved to insist it was so different there. This Sarah had a nose so large it cast a shadow across her face, a feature Sarah Moss would have completely overlooked if Sarah Burke had been at all nice. But, and perhaps because of her nose, Sarah Burke had a cruel hatred of the world.